Welcome back, sacred soul of Scorpio. I'm Selena, and if these words have found you now on this very day, May 26, 2025, trust that this message has been whispered through veils of time, arriving when your soul is finally ready to hear what it had long suspected, but never dared to speak aloud. There are moments in life that don't announce themselves with thunder, but instead arrive like a hush. A sacred pause between chapters. This is one of those moments. You've walked through storms silently, Scorpio. Not the loud kind, but the ones that echo in the corners of your heart. The storms that arrive when no one is watching, when the world thinks you're fine, but you're quietly unraveling inside. These invisible tempests have shaped you, refined you, and carved depth into places no one else can reach. You endured them not for applause, but because you knew deep down that some storms are not meant to be fought, only felt and outgrown. And now something rare stirs beneath the surface. It isn't loud or obvious, but it is undeniable. It's the shift you feel when you no longer fear being misunderstood. It's the clarity that comes when you realize you've been living in a story that no longer belongs to you. This is the final crack in the shell that has long bound your transformation. Not a shattering, but a sacred opening. What once confined you has weakened. The old identity, once protective, has become too small. And you, dear Scorpio, are not breaking down, you are breaking free. Cosmic shift, Pluto's shadow, Saturn's anchor. The day the cosmos delivers a potent message to the soul of Scorpio, one wrapped in paradox and power. Pluto, your ancient ruler, now retrograde in Aquarius, is not here to disrupt for the sake of chaos, but to whisper truths that have long been buried beneath layers of silence. These are not new revelations, but old ones you once tucked away to survive. Forgotten dreams, suppressed instincts, inner truths you once called too much. They rise now, not to haunt you, but to be reclaimed. And as Pluto pulls you into that depth, Saturn and Pisces offer something precious in return. A quiet, stable container where healing becomes not only possible, but sacred. Saturn doesn't rush you, it holds space, like a wise elder sitting beside you in the dark, saying, take your time. I'm not going anywhere. There is tension, yes, the kind that exists when one chapter hasn't fully closed and the next hasn't yet begun. But within that in-between, something holy begins to unfold. You are starting to see with new eyes the invisible threads that have shaped your life, old narratives, inherited fears, burdens that were never yours to carry are finally becoming visible. It's as if the veil has thinned, and now you can trace the origins of your patterns with the clarity that once escaped you. These beliefs never truly belonged to you. They were absorbed in childhood, echoed in relationships, reinforced by wounds, and yet none of them are your essence. And so you are cutting cords, not out of anger, but out of recognition, not with resistance, but with reverence. You're not banishing the past, you're honoring it by no longer letting it dictate your future. This isn't a dramatic rebellion. It's a gentle, sovereign act of liberation. You no longer owe loyalty to pain just because it once protected you. What you're doing now is alchemical, transforming bondage into wisdom and fear into spaciousness. For perhaps the first time in a long while, Scorpio, you are allowed to step forward without dragging ghosts behind you. And that is the beginning of real freedom. Your breaking point is a birth point. There may be moments right now when everything feels like it's falling apart, when the world you've carefully held together begins to crack in ways you can't control. You might call it a breakdown. You might feel disoriented, raw, or even ashamed of how undone you've become. But Spirit sees it differently. Spirit calls this a liberation. What looks like unraveling from the outside is in truth an unbinding, a sacred dismantling of everything that has kept you small, silent, and hidden. This is not chaos. This is a sacred reordering. You are not collapsing, you are shedding. The blindfold, the one you didn't even know you were wearing, begins to slip. And as it falls, the world doesn't just become clearer, it becomes softer. You start to see your life not through the lens of survival, but through the lens of truth. What once felt necessary, the masks, the coping, the constant self-monitoring, suddenly feels heavy and untrue. So you let it drop. The armor once needed now weighs too much to carry forward. And as the weight falls from your shoulders, something unexpected happens. You don't feel empty. You feel lighter. You feel awake. You feel real. What's left when all the pretending is gone is not a mess, it's your essence. A soul that is raw but radiant. A self that no longer apologizes for taking up space. For years, you may have shrunk to make others comfortable, hidden your depth to avoid being misunderstood, or diluted your power because the world told you it was too much. But now, Scorpio, you're remembering that you were never meant to fit into shallow mold. You were meant to transform, to rise, to birth new realities from the ashes of the old. This moment, your so-called breaking point, is actually a birth point. And yes, birth is intense. It tears, it roars, it demands everything. But what it delivers is nothing short of miraculous. A new self, emerging with clarity, with courage, with the quiet knowing that you no longer need to be anyone but who you truly are. You are not who you were last week, last month, or last year. You are becoming, and what you're becoming is breathtaking. Your angel number today is 1331, a divine sequence that carries with it the resonance of renewal, breakthrough, and divine timing. It arrives not as a coincidence, but as a quiet confirmation that the tide is turning in your favor. Good fortune is coming. Trust your gifts. A message, a miracle, or a moment of peace is on its way. His words are not merely comfort. They are a sacred contract, a promise between your soul and the universe that the path you've walked, however painful or uncertain, has not gone unnoticed. Scorpio, you've paid your karmic dues in silence. While others filled the room with noise, you chose stillness. While the world around you moved in haste, you stood in the sacred pause, feeling everything that no one else dared to feel. You stayed in places that were difficult, not because you lacked strength to leave, but because you had the courage to hold space, to witness the discomfort, to carry the unspoken, to love even when it was not returned. And when the time came to let go, you didn't do it with bitterness, but with reverence. You left not because you were broken, but because you were finally whole enough to walk away. And now the universe responds. The scales, long tilted in silence, begin to rebalance. This number 1331 is your reassurance that your patience, your depth, your quiet endurance are being met with divine reciprocation. A message may soon arrive, not in the form of thunder, but perhaps in a conversation, a dream, a sudden clarity that brings peace. A miracle may unfold, not dramatic, but intimate, the kind that healed something long or a wave of peace may visit, not because the world has changed, but because you have, because now your spirit has made space for blessings that once had no place to land. This is not a random reward. It is spiritual compensation for the weight you've carried with grace. It is the universe affirming that nothing endured in love, in integrity, in inner truth is ever wasted. You are being rewarded not just for surviving, but for doing so with heart, with dignity, and with your soul still intact. You did not lose yourself in the storm, Scorpio. And that is why everything is about to change. In the quiet stillness of this moment, the spirit of the owl walks beside you, Scorpio. Not with grand fanfare, but with the gentle dignity of one who sees what others miss. This creature of the night does not fear the dark. It thrives within it, moves through it, listens deeply to what cannot be heard in daylight. And so it comes to you now, not as a coincidence, but as a guide. One uniquely attuned to the realm where your soul resides, the unseen, the mysterious, the in-between. The owl offers you a truth that may feel both unsettling and liberating. What you thought was a dead end is actually a hidden door. You have been staring at what looked like a wall, pressing against something that refused to move, perhaps thinking the journey had halted. But the owl sees differently. It knows that some doors don't open forward, they open inward. What you mistook for limitation is, in truth, a passage concealed in shadow, waiting for the right moment of perception. That moment is now. You are not lost. You are being rerouted through wisdom that could only be found in the dark. There is a part of you, ancient, intuitive, untouched by logic, that already knows this. Your instincts, long dismissed or doubted, have been whispering in the background like a forgotten song. The owl arrives to amplify that whisper. It calls you to trust the knowing that lives in your bones, the guidance that comes not from proof, but from presence. You are not being misled. In fact, this is the most honest your path has ever been. It only feels uncertain because the mind has not yet caught up with what the soul already understands. You don't need to see the entire landscape to take the next step. The owl reminds you that clarity doesn't always come in sunlight. Sometimes it arrives in moonlight. Soft, indirect, but just enough to show the way. So lean into that quiet knowing. Follow the trail that only you can feel. And remember, the owl does not fly in flocks. It navigates alone, not in loneliness, but in trust. You, too, are being asked to listen to yourself more deeply than ever before, because the path that's unfolding isn't meant for everyone. It's meant for you, and you are ready to walk it. Abundance and new ground. Just as Aries was reminded during Taurus season to ground their energy and welcome renewal, you too, Scorpio, are now standing at the sacred edge of abundance. Not the flashy kind that announces itself with glitter and noise, but the kind that unfolds in soft, reverent ways. Yours is not an abundance that comes with applause or lightning bolts. It will not rush in to prove its worth or demand attention. Instead, it slips into your life like sunlight through half-drawn curtains. Quiet, steady, unmistakable. This abundance may take the form of a conversation, one that catches you off guard in its timing but speaks directly to something deep within you. It may be someone's words that realign your understanding of who you are and what you're meant to do, not because they tell you who to be, but because they help you remember what you had forgotten. Or it may arrive as a decision, one you've resisted, one that feels like a leap into unknown terrain, but suddenly your fear softens, and in its place is a clarity so still and strong that you realize this is right. And perhaps most sacred of all, abundance may come in a quiet morning when you wake up without the usual heaviness, when the ache that used to greet you has finally dissolved, and you realize you are no longer carrying what once felt permanent. Scorpio, this is what abundance looks like in your life now. Not extravagance, but ease. Not validation, but alignment. You are not being asked to chase anything. You are being invited to notice what is already arriving. The way your body relaxes when you speak your truth. The way opportunities begin to appear the moment you stop shrinking. The way the universe gently rearranges itself around your decision to say yes to yourself. The soil beneath you is shifting. New ground is being made ready, not only for planting, but for building something lasting, something rooted in the wisdom of all you've endured. This isn't about going back to who you were. This is about creating space for who you're becoming. And what you're becoming is a living, breathing embodiment of abundance. Not because you finally got right, but because you finally remembered. You were never lacking. You were always becoming. Let these words be more than a mantra. Let them become a breath you return to, a compass when the road ahead feels unclear. This affirmation is not just a statement of hope. It is a declaration of sovereignty. You are not who you were, Scorpio, and today marks the turning point where your becoming is no longer delayed by what you've outgrown. In the stillness of this day, you are releasing identities that were shaped by survival, expectations that were born in scarcity, and attachments that no longer nourish your path. You are not losing anything essential. You are making space for what has always been yours to claim. This isn't just another astrological update or a planetary alignment. This is the sacred fulfillment of a soul contract, one you made long before this life, a promise whispered between lifetimes that when the time came, you would remember who you are. That time is now, and the remembering begins not in chaos or fear, but in the quiet knowing that freedom no longer requires permission. The story you are writing from this point forward does not begin in the shadow of your pain. It begins in the light of your truth. So take a breath, Scorpio, a full deep breath. And with that exhale, release the old name, the one stitched together from wounds and roles and all the ways you tried to be what others needed. That name was never truly yours. It was born from pain. But now you are remembering the original name, the one your soul chose before the world told you who to be. That name carries your essence, your magic, your legacy. And as you reclaim it, you reclaim your life. May 26th is not just a date. It is a return. A return to the inner throne you once abandoned. A return to your intuitive power, your ancestral wisdom, your divine birthright. No fireworks are needed. No grand gestures. This revolution begins in silence, but its impact will echo for lifetimes. Your quiet revolution, Scorpio, has already begun, and nothing will ever be the same again.